the button there, and you can just post the Q&A, your questions. Probably I'll try and incorporate the questions into my questions, which I'm going to ask for. I'd like to introduce Mr. Ram. So Mr. Ram is known as Ram Nagappan, the Chief Information Officer for BNY Mellon, Pershing, with more than 30 years of information technology experience. Ram oversees the firm's technology and deployment of digital experience-centric wealth management solution. As a member of Pershing Executive Committee and BNY Mellon Senior Leadership Team, he is closely involved in setting the firm's strategic direction and actively collaborates with colleagues across the enterprise. Prior to assuming his current role, Ram served as a Managing Director and Chief Technology Officer at DLJ Direct and CSFB Direct. Pioneers in online internet brokerage. At DLG Direct, Ram developed the first online trading platform, a significant market disruptor. He also played an important role in establishing iNautics Technologies India Private Limited at Chennai, India, a technology affiliate of BNY Mellon that provides an array of technology development service. In these roles, Ram's work was focused on business areas including clearing, settlement, and trading order management, as well as the market making. Ram is a distinguished technologist, as well as the accomplished innovator, author, artist, strategist, and leader. A spokesperson on technology trends and issues, Ram has been featured in a number of technology and financial publications, including Investment News, Think Advisor, and on Bloomberg Radio. He is a regular keynote speaker and panelist at industry events and conferences. Ram has been instrumental in developing many award-winning solutions. He has been fundamental in the globalization of Pershing and is a well-known disruptor in the industry. Most recently, Ram was recognized by Computer World as a premier 100 IT leader and by the New Jersey Technology Council as the CIO of the year. I welcome Mr. Ram. Are we getting in? Hello?
Hey, Mani, just give us a minute. We're trying to get the speaker on in a second.
My doubt was whether my system is hanging.
No, that's why I had to come on and tell you everything is good. He's unable to join. He's there on backstage, but is not able to join the screen.
So we have to ask for a solution from Mr. Ram itself, I think. He has been actively pursuing the real-time trading, right? And this cannot happen there.
This can't happen there. So meanwhile, maybe Mani, you could talk about how you know Ram and his influence in your region. You were talking about how he's helped a lot of entrepreneurs. So maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, Ram actually been a part of a very large ecosystem in US. Ram, though he has been part of BNY Mellon and Pershing, he has been very active in developing entrepreneurs in US, that is particularly East. And how he does is, there is a group known as ATIA, Tamil Entrepreneurs Association. That is how I came to in relationship with Mr. Ram. And he voluntarily start helping the SMEs and startups who are mainly in the financial sector. And he also extends his support for other sectors too. So hopefully we are able to welcome Ram again into the stage. Yes, Mr. Ram. Sorry for the disruption.
Probably can you hear me?
Yeah.
So that was a generous introduction of me and some backstage issue, but finally I got it. So that's a great step forward. So
absolutely, because we are very happy to welcome you, and it is a morning for you, and it's a weekday, and probably will start up immediately so that we have a less time for us to cover up.
Sure.
In your career over 30 years, you have varied experiences as a small company, medium, and the big firms. You have played a very critical role in setting up technology division in India to be part of globally leading financial services organization. Can you share how SMEs can learn from your experience to serve global organization, which you have done earlier in your career?
Yeah. So thank you for that question. Yeah, I did work in a small company, built small company, and now I am in a big enterprise. So for what I would recommend for small and medium, when they engage with a big company or when they want to scale up, it's more towards their problem that they're solving. It's very important. Don't try to solve everything, because that is not what a big company would really want it. Because when you look at a big company, they always have something about it. They want it to be very efficient about it. So you want to be really, really focused in solving the right problem. That's one thing. And the other thing, you're extremely different category. You being a kind of a solution. Whenever you look at a product and you're going into a company and offering something, they ask for a small and a medium enterprises. The other thing I wanted to also is, whatever you do, make sure it plugs into an enterprise framework, right? Because you just don't want to be standalone. You don't want it to be hanging out there, because people usually look at these one-offs and they won't like it. So you want something that kind of blends in what they do. And the last thing, now it's very important, you need to be resilient. The solution that you offer has to be really, really resilient for it to be functioning, because that's the step number one that the big companies, when you engage, that they really look for. So when you scale, this is very important. Startup is actually one different task. I'm not going to say startup is very easy, because it has its own challenges. But scale up is actually completely another piece. Many people fail from a startup to a scale up, because they don't have the right framework, they don't have the right infrastructure, they're not engaging with big companies very well. And that is very key. You need to lay it out. Normally, Mani, the one thing that I wanted to say, and for all the people, is what you built for startup, it's very hard when you scale up. You have to really move faster in changing and adapting to that scale up thing and the requirement of a big company.
It is a good point, because many of us who've been part of this world, being a small company, as a technology company, we would have built good solutions, which we believe that it can be adapted to the larger firms across globally. But one thing which wonders us is, if we have to service globally, is there a cultural fitment plays a role in that? What are the things in your perspective were doing right to get to this place? You would have done it before, and probably this will give us some direction of how do we, being a small, how do I reach the large companies?
Yeah. So, one thing is, don't oversell. Don't oversell, because be genuine in what you're trying to provide. That's very, very important. And also be ready for a long procurement cycle, because it's not going to close a lot faster unless you are solving a problem that is so important for that company that they really need it. Something like a regulatory problem or something that just came out and you have a solution. And there are very few. Most of the people have a very great solution that they wanted to give it to. So culturally, here's what I would recommend. Don't oversell. What you have, don't think you have a silver bullet. And I think that actually fires back, because people over on the other side of the table do know, they're very knowledgeable, They have seen many vendors. They have thousands and thousands of vendors that they deal with, or third parties or companies like yourself. So be genuine. It's not a silver bullet. It's okay to say no. Okay. And also deliver things on time is very important. Meaning what you promise, you have to do. And then keep up the schedule. All of those basic things. See, what I say, it may sound very simple, but what happens is the passion that you have on your problem that you're solving or on a company is going to hide all of these things. You're going to be sitting in front and overselling and selling you could solve everything under the sun, and that's not really true. And also be ready to answer hundreds and hundreds of questions when you sell to a big company, because the procurement process is extremely, extremely rigid, and you have to go through it. Maybe you need to have some help in how do you sell to a bigger company, because in here, I do know when I look at my procurement question, there's about 500 questions you have to answer. And for a small company, that is a lot of task. So culturally, you need to have that fit. And also look at a model in which how you engage, that's going to get you inside the door a lot faster. Maybe it's a freemium model. Maybe you want mentorship to get your product adopted first in a big company. And then that will help you in selling with the other company. So be very, very flexible, because for you to have that attestation from that client that your product is very good and that we are using is more important. And in many cases, I want to tell you, the big company will help you, will mentor you, shape your product to the right level of client. And that's very, very important, because you get the field experience. So culturally, I would say, have that passion, have that empathy that you want to solve the client's problem, and be innovative. So I'll say 3 things: passion, empathy, and be creative in what you do. And then the rest, it may sound very common, but have a checklist, because you need to pay attention to the details.
Yeah, given that as a background, that imagine that they have a company which have a creative product, and they are ready to have the passion to and then engage with the larger organization like yours. You are the right fit, because you have been running as SME, and then you have been part of as a larger organization as a CIO. One of the question which has come into the Q&A, is it finally, after doing all this, is the L1 being selected as a company, like who has quoted for the least cost? What is the experience you have felt the SMEs coming from India to you? The second question, which is embedded into that, is that how do you deal with the CIOs who is not straight enough, who has an agenda behind? So is there something which you would like to address?
Well, there are 2-part question here, meaning whether it's the price to value. Right. I think when you deal with big company, especially the small and medium approaching a big company, I don't think price is of a big play there. I don't think they're negotiating you out for pennies. No, I think it's the value that you provide, your ease of adoption. How do you fit into the framework? Those are the main things that people do look. That's the first side of it. So your product quality and what it solves is more important than the pricing. But pricing, I would say, they don't really come into pricing day one. They come at the later stage. So they basically look for how the product is fitting and solving the problem. The second part of the question is, you're dealing with a tough CIO or a bad CIO. I can't understand. The question was something about, meaning you're going to find the people, which is wrong. All our company have code of ethics that we need to follow, But whenever you find something, I won't do business. That's my view. That's actually wrong, and you need to figure out how to basically expose that, because that is completely wrong, and that is not the best practices business that anyone should encourage.
Thank you very much. I think that is very clear answer. Probably we look at the technology and impact, because you have been a technologist in your career all throughout. Everyone is talking about this digital, and that's the most discussed topic nowadays. what do you see as a representative characteristic of the SME in terms of digital engagement? What's the right way to assess the digital maturity?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I asked people, hey, what does digital mean to you? Just on my own, I used to ask people, and no one can give me a very clear answer what that means to them. For each one of them, it's very different, and for each company, the implementation of digital or digital transformation and what they mean digital is slightly different. Okay, so we need to understand that, even though that's the fourth industrial revolution that we're all at, and everyone wants to offer digital. So with that in mind, you need to approach that firm, because when you approach that firm, it could be a retail industry, it could be a finance industry, it could be any one of them. Understand to them what digital means to them is very important. And then you need to engage with them, because they may be putting more focus on the experience that they deliver to the client. And they may be putting more on, I would say, the APIs that you open up your service that they can actually interface. So you need to understand that a little bit before you actually present. And the thing that I wanted to tell you is, no one has really come up with a great measure of your maturity in digital, what you're offering. And also, how do you quantify it? If I just say I'm good with the digital, I'm bad with digital, that doesn't mean anything. Can you measure what maturity level I am and at this rating? So if you have a model like that, some people, like I do know there's a lot of research organizations that publish these models, adopt one of them, apply to your product to say how digital you are or how you can impact the digital transformation of the company is very, very important in doing it. This is a very fluid space in how people actually talk about it. So it could be API, it could be experience, it could be operational efficiency, it could be no paper, it could be doing everything remote. Now we are all working remote. So digital plays a serious part. It could be adoption of digital. You're doing a bank or you're doing a financial services, and how do you do things? So the space is pretty open for you to figure out your sweet spot, your expertise, and apply it. And I would clearly recommend have a maturity model, have some kind of a measurement. Don't just go and say, I'm just going to make you all digital, because that may not be the digital for that company you're trying to sell.
It's an apt answer, Mr. Ram. And probably what runs in our mind is, as a technologist and you're sitting in the US, that too part of a larger organization, what do you see as the trends for SME and SMB in future? And what emerging technologies are you most excited about?
Yeah, so there are many, but I want to. I'm a technologist. I'm an engineer by heart. I love technology, but there is one thing I want to caution people: don't try to create a technology solution and look for a problem. Meaning that is not the right approach. You are trying to solve a problem and apply all the right technologies. So that's the core recipe. That's a recipe for success. So with that said, the technology, certainly the AI machine learning is everywhere. There won't be any product without that fundamentally added to it. So that's going to be, I would say, 101 in everything that we do, even though there's a lot more we could do. Certainly, the deep analytics is another area. How do people use data, especially since I'm in a financial services world, and how do we take the data and how do we make insights and use of the data is extremely, extremely still open. People need to tap into it. The other one I would talk about is, I want to use the word hyper-automation. I know we have the word automation in making it efficient, but it's still not quite enough. There's lots of tasks that people do that needs to be automated. So the space it is improving is on the hyper-automation side. Certainly the client interaction. How do you interact with client? Now with the pandemic and we all working remote, how do we work meaning can you just, even the video conferencing basic thing, and I do hear a lot of new technology and collaboration is being looked into. Those are extremely, extremely exciting, because we cannot just be sitting on a Zoom call or any video conference and do our business forever. That's not going to happen. So the innovation in collaboration technology, in the marketing area, the remote IoT, meaning it's very, nowadays, because we are working again remote, the IoT technology and how you can actually manage and monitor the machines, there's a huge thing going on in that. So, meaning while it may not be a core fundamental, like, inventing a computer or creating a rocket engine kind of a thing, what is now happening is, because of the power of compute, all these theoretical technologies coming to life now. And you can actually use them in how you build your products and have a differentiating factor. So it is the age of digital and technology, I would say. If you are in the technology and in the digital world at this time, you are everywhere, in every business, and you can actually apply these to make that particular vertical or the industry completely different with applying these latest innovations in technology.
Thanks, Mr. Ram, for the very broad answer, because we would love to have you to get into details more. But certainly, because of the time, probably we have to get into the other thought process what you have. You have other quality, like you look at the startups and the SMEs. What attributes as an investor value in startup stroke SME founders and leadership teams for effectively scaling for global firms like yours?
See, the rule of thumb that I learned and I use in looking at a startup or an idea, I would say the following things. First, I want to look at that problem to make sure that a lot of people have that problem, not just one. So the problem space that whoever the startup is solving should be pretty broad. It is solving a lot of problem, and it's a growing problem, right? A lot of people have it, and it's growing. So, and also it's an urgent problem that you want to solve. You want to solve this immediately, and it's an expensive to solve, right? It's a regulatory, it's a mandatory that you got to solve this, and it's also happening frequently. So look at it. I gave you a problem where it is growing, it is everywhere, it's happening frequent, it's expensive, it's mandatory. So when I look at it and I say, hey, do you have, I think I said like 6 different attributes. Do you have more, like 3 or 4 of this or 2 of this? That's how we kind of try to pick that, because growth is very important for startup, right? So which one is going to grow? So you basically look. So I'm trying to tell the czar of startup sitting in asking question, which is money himself. So I'm basically saying is that's the attribute we look for, is to have something in that nature. Now, does that mean every company has to be like this? No, it's not. Some companies who start could be a basic business that is needed, right? Meaning if I just have a standard restaurant started without nothing of these things, that is a business. It's okay. There's nothing wrong in it. But when we look for partnering with small companies and fintech, and what we look for are these things, because what happens is they come up with a great idea, and we know the idea is not quite ready for the market, but we can work with them, we can mentor them, and they're willing to change the idea. And then we try to shape the idea, and we actually get win-win situation on both sides. That's kind of how we look at it. And I would say there is a huge trend in how the big companies here actually partner with small and medium. Even the whole fintech area that we constantly look at the deals that are coming, and who do we want to mentor, where do we want to invest. This is a cycle that not only just BNY Mellon, but every company is doing. So there's a huge opportunity. You just have to structure yourself and position and engage. No one is going to close the door. They're pretty open. It's all about the problem you're trying to solve and how flexible you are.
So the last question, as your time has run out, but possibly I would like to ask this question for the benefit of the SMEs. whatever you say as the new technology startups, how the Indian SMEs and startups, can they access some program which is that BNY Mellon, which is globally they access this startup space on the technology? Is it, what do you recommend? Should we access the, is there any site, or how do we actually go about reaching BNY Mellon?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, yeah, we do have our doors open for innovative solutions. So I would say from our point of view, if you're doing the same thing as what we are doing and augmenting our work, that won't be very attractive to us. You have to do something that we don't have and they were looking for a solution. So if you ask me, it's like closing gaps on things that we are not there. Maybe our competition is doing and we are not quite there. Or something about a new regulation that came out and you have a solution that can close that new regulation. These are some of the things that makes it immediate engagement. That's what I would recommend. And this could be true with every other company here. So for companies in India who wants to help the companies in the US, is work on these type of solutions to actually really engage with the people. And there is also a lot of accelerator firms that I would say that could be like an intermediary for you, that could help you screen and then facilitate you to present to bigger companies. That also is there.
That's a good view. I think that is something which people can look at as an accelerator. Thank you very much, Mr. Ram, for your contribution to this SME conference. Probably people will learn from this, and probably they will also try and then build their system for globally accessing the larger organization. Thank you so much for coming and then giving your input. We would like to have you more input from yours, but because of the time paucity, probably we are cutting it short. Thank you very much again for coming here on the weekday and then spending time with us.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Mani as well as the NASCOM team. Thank you.